All right, guys, you asked for it. Today we're going to take this thing and try and turn it into the first Infraction Grom ever. But before we do that, we've got some things we need to take care of. We're going to be taking this budget brushless system out and putting in a big, beefy power system. But even before we do that, I want to see how this thing handles two-wheel drive. Full-size NASCAR vehicles are two-wheel drive, and I want to see how this thing handles it before we go big on power, because I know it's not going to handle it well with big power. Switching this to two-wheel drive is very easy. You just take the center cover off, pull the central drivetrain off, remove these O-rings, pull the bearings forward, and then there's just pins holding the center drive shaft in. Pop those pins out, and then put everything back together again. And then we just do the same thing for the front. I'm really excited to try and turn this thing into an Infraction. I know you've been wanting an Infraction Grom ever since they came out with the Groms, and I definitely have too. This is certainly the right platform for it, and I'm really curious to see how it handles on-road and off-road with bigger tires and a truck body. In order to support those bigger tires, we're gonna have to put some upgrades on this thing, some of which aren't actually designed for this car, and I'm not sure are gonna fit, so hopefully we'll be able to use them. But for now, we've got a two-wheel drive stock car. Let's see how it handles. Okay guys, that went about as expected. This thing's pretty fun in two-wheel drive, but it's also kind of impractical. It mostly just does donuts. Fortunately, switching between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive on this platform is pretty straightforward. So if you want to give it a try yourself, go ahead and pull the center drive shaft out and see how it goes. For now though, we're about to go big power on this car, so we're gonna need that four-wheel drive. So let's just pop that center drive shaft right back in there, and then we need to pull this old power system out. If you didn't see my previous video, definitely check it out. This is the best budget power system you can put in one of these Groms. I've run this in several different Groms, and I give you all the information you need to get this installed in that video. For this upgrade, the only part of the power system we're going to keep stock is this motor mount. And we're going to be installing it on this absolute beast of a 1010 4400 kV Castle motor. This has a 1/8 inch output shaft, which is a lot stronger than some of the smaller motors you can get from Castle, which tend to break shafts in this platform. This truck comes stock with a 19-tooth pinion. However, we're going to be going with an 18-tooth pinion. This is an 18-tooth 0.5 mod 1/8 bore from Hot Racing. As far as I know, they're the only ones that currently make pinions that work for this application. When we do put bigger tires in this thing, we're also going to be upgrading the differentials and axle shafts, but for now, I want to see what the stock drivetrain can do with all this power. Because this particular chassis is so long, I think this motor is just going to fit right in here. However, with some of the shorter chassis, you may have to trim off this boss, some features here, as well as some bits on this center brace. It doesn't look like we're going to have to do it on this one though. If you have trouble getting this center brace installed, take the motor out, put it in the center brace first, and then install it. It can make things fit a lot more easily and can save you a lot of frustration. And to go along with that, we're going to be running the awesome little Mamba Micro X2. There's definitely more room in this chassis than there is in most of the Grom chassis, so you could run a bigger ESC if you wanted to, but I really like this little ESC, and it'll keep things nice and light. Previously, I mentioned doing a video where I fix all my broken cars and then test them all out. If you're interested in seeing that, make sure you get subscribed so I know you want to see it, and I'll make that video. I'd say an XT60 connector is probably on the limit for the power of this vehicle, but it should work for now, and it's what my batteries are anyway. We were able to do 20 on 2S, 40 on 3S. Can we do 60 on 4S? Let's go find out. Okay guys, I'm a basher, not a speedrunner, so hopefully this ends in a new top speed and not a big crash. Oh god, that's a lot of power. Okay, here we go. Full throttle! Oh man. Okay, one more time. My heart is pounding. Whoa. Okay, let's see how that did. Okay guys, after that little tumble, the tires are wet and I really don't want to wreck this thing badly, but you know what? We got 55 miles an hour out of it. I'm sure it can do 60 and it was actually pretty stable. But again, I don't want to destroy this thing because I know why you guys are here. Let's turn this into an infraction. The first thing we're going to need to do is beef up this drivetrain. I've got steel CVDs and the fabled all metal differentials. I was able to get these online from a hobby shop. They cost me a little bit more than they should have, but at least I have them. I'm almost positive that the differentials will work on this, though I'm not sure those CVDs will. Those are the CVDs for the Mojave, and whereas most of the part numbers are the same for the suspension, some of them aren't, and they might not fit. Hopefully they will, because as you can see, these have 8mm hexes, which is something I wanted to verify because in my last video I said they were 8.5mm, but the specifications online say they are 8mm. Let's measure these. Okay, yeah, I'm getting just about 8.5mm. Maybe the 8mm hexes are actually 8.5mm. I'm not sure. Being a Grom, this upgrade should be pretty straightforward. We just need to take this rear diffuser off, which leaves us with a pretty standard looking Grom rear end. And we just need to pull this differential cover off, and the differential should come right out. Now, before we move on, I want to clarify the difference between the updated and the upgraded differentials. These are the upgraded sealed all metal differentials that have been available since the first Grom came out, but have been kind of hard to come by. This is the updated stock differential. Let's take a look inside these and I'll show you the difference. First of all, externally, you can see we've got steel output cups here with plastic output cups here. And then inside the updated differential, we've got steel spider gears, but plastic side gears, and this is grease-filled and not sealed. Whereas in the upgraded differential, you get all steel internal gears, and this is fluid filled. Now, as you see, there's no seal here, but it does seem to stay pretty well sealed with just the plastic to metal interface. I don't think you could put a gasket in here because it would change the internal gear mesh, which would probably lead to failure. This is the part number for them. I got mine through Leisure Hour Hobbies online. They might still have more, I'm not sure, but if you look up this part number, you might be able to find them at other hobby shops, or maybe you've got a set sitting at your local hobby shop. Before we install this, we need to see if these steel axles are gonna work. In the front, we get complete replacement CVDs, but in the rear, we're just getting the stub shafts because it already has steel CVDs. Those do fit together, but the real question is, will it fit in the hub? If you've never taken one of these apart, it's kind of different from most other cars. Basically, there's a double-ended screw in here that holds the hex on, and then you can just push the stub shaft out. It can be really tight because it tends to get jammed up on the bearings, but it does just push out. And then they don't give you new bearings, so you'll have to fight to get this bearing off here as well. There we go. That one wasn't too bad. And then you can get a closer look at how this hex works. I'm not sure if the 12mm hexes are the same, but they're probably identical. Now let's get this steel stub shaft in and see if it's gonna work. That looks just about right. And that means we can put these 12mm hexes on, along with their associated teeny tiny grub screws. And this means, at least in the back, we're gonna be able to run bigger tires. Now I need to just do the same thing to the other side. These kits come with 2 different size pins. The smaller pins aren't actually used. I think originally they were planning on only giving us the stub shafts for the front, but they figured it would be too difficult to put together, so they gave us the whole thing and never removed this extra pin. So when you're done, you will have 2 extra small pins. All right, then we just use the same stock dog bones that originally came with it and pop in our fancy new differential. This diff should definitely be able to handle all the power we're gonna throw at it. Okay guys, there we go, and she is looking good. Now the front's gonna be exactly the same, so unless I have any problems, we'll just, well, something went wrong. And it's not a compatibility problem, it's a quality control problem. Notice anything different between these 2 stub axles? This one's for the Mojave, and this one's for the Granite. These both came in the same package. Horizon! Fortunately, I do have some stock 12mm hexes, and they do fit on the stock axles, so one of these stock axles is gonna have to stay plastic. Hopefully it won't break, because this is probably the weakest part of the entire drivetrain. So there we go, one nearly completely upgraded drivetrain. Now that we've got the 12mm hexes on here, we can work on tires. I've got 2 options. These are the D-Boots Fortress tires off of the Mojave, and these are just some random generic tires I got on Amazon. The random generic tires are quite a bit bigger, and I like the black, so I think we're gonna try to go with these. Now, whereas these Fortress tires look like they would actually clear just fine, these generic tires are going to require a little bit of trimming. Whatever I was using these for originally, I'd actually cut some of the nubs off, which will help, but I think we're going to have to cut these pieces off right here. Look away if you're squeamish. All right, let's see how that fits. All right, that's going to be pretty close at full lock, but I think it's going to be okay. And we've got plenty of room in the rear, no problems back here. These tires come unglued, so we're gonna have to glue them up really quickly. I would recommend wearing gloves when working with super glue. Normally, I'd recommend taking these apart and cleaning all the surfaces with alcohol, but these are pretty small tires, so the forces on them should be pretty low. We're just gonna go ahead and glue them right up. I've got some Starbond super glue here, which is very high quality super glue, and we're just gonna peel this back, put a little bit in, and then work our way around. I'll do this off camera so I don't make too much of a mess. And now that I've made the requisite complete mess while gluing on tires, including managing to get some on my fingers even though I was wearing gloves, let's get these installed. All right, guys, well, now I think it's gonna run like an Infraction. Let's see if we can make it look like one. Now, if you're following along at home, you're gonna need something with about a 9-inch wheelbase that is around 7 inches wide. And if you're gonna keep the stock front and rear end, is about a total of 16 inches long. First of all, I'd love to use this Vortex body, as it already says Arrma on it, and it's actually fairly close. Unfortunately, it's just way too long in the back, and I don't think it's gonna look good. Next up, we've got any number of 14 and 16th scale truck bodies, which of course are gonna be way too small. Now, I've got this Hypergo 10208 body, which is actually pretty darn close, but still not quite what I'm looking for. What I think I'm gonna settle on is this Jegs H150 body. It does say Jegs all over it, but I think we can cover most of that up, and it fits pretty darn close. Let me cut out these wheel wells and we'll take a look. Okay, no, that body's not gonna work. It's not wide enough. I think I actually am gonna go with this Vortex body. We'll pull this wing off, trim this up, and see how it looks. And there we go, guys, the world's first 4S Infraction Grom. Now, the body didn't come out perfect, but the body's the least important part of this. Let's see how this thing performs. All right, first test, let's see what you can do with some nice rough concrete. Guys, this thing is an absolute weapon. Let's go see how she handles some real off-roading. Wow, guys, this thing is an absolute missile. I really wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, but it is absolutely awesome. These tires are great. I can't remember exactly where I got them. I think they were just generic tires on Amazon. You can probably find some similar ones. The body, while not the prettiest thing in the world, actually turned out just fine. And this thing handles absolutely awesome, both on-road and off-road. This smooth bottom makes it glide over obstacles. And in anything but tall grass or big rocks, it actually does really, really well. I hope you've enjoyed the journey making this thing. I really enjoyed having you with me. If you thought this was cool, definitely go buy a Losi Nascar and make one. Then definitely check out one of these videos.